When working with text, you can do some creative things with the pen tool. So my two main things I'm going to be working with are the text tools and the pen tool. We're also going to be going over here and looking at some stroke features with dashed lines and arrowheads in a minute. And the stroke feature, you can always go up into Window and Stroke down here will open that up. So if for some reason you don't see this toolbar at the side, all these tools are available under the window thing. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick my regular type tool, click and drag that open, and I'm going to write graphic design 101. Select that area there. And again, all the text information that you need is up here. So I can make that larger, smaller. I can go and choose my different fonts. And that looks good. If at some point, all of a sudden, it's spilling over two lines, you want it on one line, what you can do here is just go to the Move tool, drag that open over, and then give that text box a little bit more room. If you're feeling like restricted by, say, the dimensions of your artboard, once again, you can go over here to the artboard icon, switch that up, and change the dimensions there. If you need to move your thing around at all, you can go to the Hand tool. It's a really handy tool to move that around, so you can float something around there. If you're changing your text and you want to change the spacing and different things between things, you can go up to Window. You go down into the Type area. So Window, Type, and then Character. And then we'll open up the Character window for you. And then you can then go and change the dimensions if you need to. You can change the spacing between things. I can click on this little thing here to show options, and then it will show more options. I don't recommend this, but in this option here, it allows you to change the vertical scale if you need to, and it stretches the text vertically. I think that can go too far sometimes, so you gotta be cautious with any vertical or horizontal scaling you're doing to your image. It can start to look really funny if you're not careful. And then the distance between letters I recommend. It says the distance between the negative space here. This is always helpful because it doesn't distort the actual letter at all. And then if I was to copy this line, I'll show you something else. Control C, and I'm going to hit Control V. I'm going to select those lines, and if I want the distance between lines changed, that's up here, right? So all of a sudden, you're now selecting the distance between the lines. All right, I'm just going to delete this part of the thing. So now you have your text here, and if you're wanting to customize the letters at all, this is text, this is not a shape yet. So if you want to turn your letters into a shape so that you can grab parts of it with the white arrow tool and start modifying it, you go up to Type and you say Create Outlines. And then that gives the type outlines. I need to go to Type, Create Outlines. So if I zoom in to the text where I created the outlines, I now have access to being able to modify that. And the nice thing about Illustrator is it's got, remember in one of the, briefly I spoke about in one of the earlier tutorials, it's got the little dot here, and you can then go and curve parts of the parts of your letters. So you can go along and you could, modify each of the letters. You could even, if you were playing around with things, I'm going to take this R here, and I'm going to drag it over to the A. I'm going to move that A a little bit closer, right? Now if I want those two melded together, welded together, I can go the white arrow tool, shift select both of those, go to my shape builder, drag all those parts together, Did you see I had to drag that multiple times to get that all welded together? And now those two shapes are now together. Maybe there's too many anchor points in here, and this is where you could go here to the delete anchor point tool and start modifying that stuff. So if there's too many anchor points, you can just delete them. And this is where all of the previous lessons kind of build your information that you have, that you can actually weld things or meld things together. You can delete or add anchor points. You could even go in here to these little areas here and curve parts of the letter if you needed to. I did notice that when I was selecting the entire thing in this area here, it wasn't letting me pinpoint the individual letters. So if you're trying to meld letters together and you've done the create outlines option, it looks like you're going to have to go to the white arrow tool to select those things together. Shift select with the white arrow tool. Go to your shape builder and then drag those shapes together, and then you could be working with text that way. Also, I think with the whole this white arrow tool is called the direct selection. So when you directly select an area, you can then go and you could add gradients to different parts of your letter, even different gradients if you wanted to, I'm assuming, or different colors. I'm going to go down here. Remember, you can go in the gradients library. You can try let's try gems and jewels. And there you go. So you can start really tinkering around with lettering if you needed to. I'm going to delete this for now. This part of the demo is over, and that was the create outlines area. Other popular things are taking a piece of text and applying it to a path. So I'm going to zoom out just to show you something quickly. I'm going to use my hand tool to move this around. Often students will want to attach letters to a circle. So if I hold shift, I've got my circle. This is my path. I don't really need it filled in because I'm just using the path. Go to the type on a path tool. Click that, and then I can start typing away. I could go Command C and copy and paste whatever it is that I need around. And it functions exactly like the text would normally. Increase your font, change your font style, and then that's how you would create that around that circle there. And sometimes people want to make waves or something like this and add text to the wave. It all works in the same concept. Again, you don't need that filled in. I find that confusing. I just want the path. Go to my type on a path tool and wave fun. And I can just copy and paste that, Command C. And there you go. That's how you type on a path if you need that information. Other things, if you don't want to just be typing along a horizontal axis, you can go here to the vertical type tool, and then it will put it vertically this way. Hold on a second. I'm going to highlight this so you can see this a little bit better. Let's bold that. If you want to do other things, interesting things, I made a copy of this. You can start rotating the text to see what kind of text thing starts happening there. That's what happens if you rotate it. I'm going to move that off to the side. I'm going to make another copy, Control C, Control V. Okay, so if you want to rotate the text and you don't want this distortion to happen, what you have to do is go to this area here, double click on this. So Illustrator is making you double click on this area here, and then when I rotate it, it should rotate the way I want it. Okay, so I don't like this at all. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to close the type area here just so you can see what's going on. Here's the graphic design. I'm just going to change the dimensions of my artboard quickly here, just to give a little bit more breathing room from side to side. So now I'm going to make a kind of interesting graphic over here. I'm going to go to the pen tool. I'm going to make a couple. I'm just going to go and make almost like a zigzagged line here to show you something. I'm going to select this. I do not want that filled. What I'm interested in is a black stroke. I'm going to find a width that I'm happy with. 10 looks good. And then I'm also going to play around with doing that line curved. This is always good practice to use the pen tool in different ways. So now I've got a rigid line and I've got a curved line, and I am going to open up the stroke area here. I'm going to select this one and I'm going to show you some options you could play around with. I'm going to copy and paste that because I think it's always good to keep an original around in case you don't like what you've done. Now I've selected this. If I go and click on dash line, you can see now it gives me the dash line feature. If I want that dash smaller, I could go 8, and that's going to change the nature of that. I can also change the gap in between to 4, and then I could even change some of the dashes as it goes along. I could change this one to 4 and change that gap to 2. So as you see, you can start really playing around with what the dashes do. Let's say you want an arrowhead somewhere on the dash. You can go and you've got all these different arrow types you can use. You could go that one there. I'm going to scale that down. And I'm going to go 30 on the scale there. You could put the same arrowhead on the other side or a different one, doesn't really matter. And you could make that a different size if you need to. So there you go. That's now you know about putting arrows and dashes into things. The same thing with your curved line. You could go Control C, Control V, copy and paste, move that off to the side here. Select this area here. Go dashes. You can see it's defaulted to the same dashes that I have up here. But if I just hit 0 there, I'll start everything back at 0. There you go. And then now I've got a bit of a gap in between there. I could even go 2. I think I like 4. And so on and so forth. And let's put an arrow at the very end of this one. Let's do that style. And let's change that to 20. I'm happy with those, so I'm going to delete these. And there you go. So now I've got a graphic design along the side here. And I've shown you dashes and arrowheads to your strokes if you need to do that.